Thank you for checking out the Media Marketing Podcast, a place where you can learn all things media and marketing related. Don't miss a beat in boosting your business and your brand. In each episode, you'll gain valuable insights, tools, and strategies to apply to your marketing efforts. And now your host, Brian Cargill.
All right, you guys, I'm so excited to be joined today by Ryan Chisesi. He is a creative video editor with extensive focus in social media and brand content for brands and influencers. His background includes videography, photography, music editing for major label artists, brands, and influencers. And Ryan is the owner and video editor of Y Plus Time Media. Ryan, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, this is really cool. I've been excited to have you onto the podcast for a while. I've been following your stuff on Instagram. You're always putting out unique content, and you have a lot of fun with it too.
Yeah, I try to.
Oh man, yeah. What's been the feedback from some of those like really fun and like just you're doing like kind of practical tips of like video production as well as just kind of putting a nice humorous spin on it?
Yeah, well, first I gotta say thanks for having me, man. I know you put a lot of work into this stuff, and I've seen like how many episodes and just the effort you put into this and just the overall look, just how you have your setup done, like nothing but respect for what you're doing. And I'm really appreciative to have the opportunity. So thank you. It means a lot.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate hearing that too. I think it's kind of, what is it? Iron sharpens iron. Like I get inspired by a lot of your work. And so it's great seeing a lot of people out there just producing stuff. I think especially in the creative field, it's like can be like perfection can really hold us back. And so just putting stuff out there and trying and experimenting and seeing how you can grow is huge.
See, and I love that you said that, because that's especially with like your question you asked me, and then like with your content as well, and like how much you put out. There's obviously an aspect there where obviously you want to put out a good product, but at the same time you're like, I just want to get stuff out as well. And I want to get that experience and keep going. And when you talk about the social media, like some of the stuff I put out, part of that is like an ongoing task of trying to just do things that are even more out there that make me more uncomfortable. Because to be honest, a lot of the stuff I put out is super dumb. Like I do a lot of just dumb things and goof around, and I'll put on wigs and I make all these jokes. But part of it is to see if I can be comfortable putting myself in that position. And then the other part of it is the kind of marketing media side of my creative brain from video, where I want to see what gets people's attention. And it's interesting because I can spend days, putting together this epic edit and these things that I think are amazing. And then I can film myself with a cell phone, wearing a wig, making a joke about I messed up all my film because I left the lens cap on. And that gets way more attention than the thing I like poured my soul into. So it's really interesting to see how people tick. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. I think that's probably the biggest thing for like content creators or marketers is like sometimes the thing that you didn't think was going to be a big hit winds up actually being the thing. And so that's why, taking that approach of producing a lot of different stuff, you never know what's going to work. So
yes. And isn't that crazy? It's always that. It's always the thing I'm like, and I put it up and people love it. And I'm like, this is terrible.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm with you. Spending like half a day, a whole day working on one piece of content, and then it just kind of like does okay. And no, I think that's, well, even some of those practical tips, they seem like kind of straightforward, but I think if you're a videographer, at some point you've left your lens cap on there, and it feels like, a like doit thing, but it's so true and that's part of the process of like, batteries die or you forgot your memory cards at home, all of those things. And that's just, all of those make you better in getting those reps. And eventually you get to do some of the cool stuff that you've been able to work on. Do you want to tell people a little bit what you're doing right now? You're in a different setup. You're in a different time zone even.
Yes. So not too bad. I'm in Colorado right now. I'm here on I believe I can mention it. It's in NDAs and things are always interesting, but I'm here working with the Colorado Springs like Olympic and Paralympic Committee, doing some work for doing some things for them. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but I'm here on a 3-month editing contract for them. with just a massive amount of content, which is interesting because, like you said, especially short form and brand content, stuff like that, a lot of this is like full episodes, like long content. And so that's what I'm doing here currently. I'm at a friend's house, posted up for the next 3 months, and doing that while also I have YouTube clients and other people that I do different edits and work for, and then other freelance gigs. So doing that during the week, almost in a 9 to 5, except it's with like crazy hours. And then doing edits literally right now for other people who I've been working with for a long time. So.
Wow. Well, congrats to you. That sounds like a really big project, and
Thanks, man.
sounds like you're kind of juggling some other things in there too. I saw the setup for where you're editing, and it looks just awesome. Nice couches, big screens to be able to see the work.
Crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. When they first gave me the tour of the studio, they showed me around because they have like 4 or 5 different like edit bay rooms, and then they have conference rooms, all the other things, and they have the actual production studio, the gear room, and then the tape room and all this stuff. But their main edit one, which is the big one I'm in, it's got the big couches, it's got the 4 giant, it's got the 3 big screens, and then the 1 huge monitor screen that on the wall, all this stuff. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So where am I going to be? And there you go, in here. And I was like, yes, me.
Dude, it's pretty cool. That's awesome. That's a big adjustment too. Yeah.
Now my home setup screens feel small, so they've ruined my life.
Yeah, I know it's hard to go back after you've already had the nice setup.
I know. I'm very thankful. It's kind of like what you're saying. It's interesting as well, though. It's kind of like what we were just talking about. It kind of, to me, everything kind of comes full circle. And with the like putting yourself out there, like with the goofy stuff I was talking about, is also gets people's attention because it's relatable, like you said, because everybody's done it. And part of that is also learning, like with marketing, everything else, getting your name out there, trying to get exposure. And I do that from posting things online to sending out resumes. I see production work and studios and stuff all the time. And I literally throw my hat in the ring for everything. I've probably filled out 100, 120 resumes, or sent it out to different places, and especially in the last year, at least 100, maybe more. And I've had like 98 no's. You know what I mean? You don't have enough experience. You don't have this. You don't have that. And then this place, I reached out to them, the studio that I'm doing the work for with the Olympics, and said, hey, because they had a spot, and they said, well, we're not hiring anybody else, but your work's great. We'll stay in touch. And then, 6 months later, they hit me up and they go, we think you're perfect for this job. And it's just interesting that the different ways you put yourself out there, how it can literally change your life. And that's literally how media has changed my life, is just by getting over that fear and literally just throwing things at the wall and being like, screw it, I'm going to try.
Yeah, just going for it. And that's what I find really fascinating. And that kind of resonates with me, with my career too. It's like, you're just trying a whole bunch of stuff, hoping that it's going to work. And you know that you need to be doing things to like build up that muscle or build up those reps.
Yeah.
And then you don't know how it's going to work out. And you can only, stealing it from Steve Jobs, you can only really connect the dots, like looking backwards on how you got to where you are. And so you're so I would say to people, like, keep grinding, keep putting stuff out there. Do you have any tips for kind of like mentally getting over that hurdle? Because there's no one even talks about this. There's like a whole mental side to social media and putting yourself out there and rolling the dice, and how is it going to be received? And there could be someone that just wants to troll you and goes on and starts, posting, negative, just, throwing some shade at you.
Man, you're so right about that. And that's another reason why, I appreciate just even your time today, like being able to talk to somebody who does what you do. It just shows that, again, trying those things can help really outweigh and show you that the good of all of it does outweigh the negative. And that's kind of how one approach you have to do to get over it. Because there's always going to be trolls. I get trolled all the time. I put stuff up on, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, other stuff. And I get trolled, especially on TikTok, because the way the audience trends. I get trolled all the time. And it sucks. I won't lie. Because I go in with the best intentions, just trying to be funny and just to have a good time. And then people go out of their way. But one of I'm sure I'm a big fan of Gary Vee and a lot of the things he talks about. And one of my favorite things he talks about trolls, etc. And I'm sure you've probably heard this. It's like, you have to think about the mental state of anybody that goes out of their way to put somebody else down and then just have empathy for them, which I've been learning to do and I've gotten much better at, because it really is, I don't care if you're like super young and doing it, you just don't know any better. There has to be some wiring that is off in your brain, like, or where you're at in that moment in your life where you have to put somebody else down. It literally does nothing for no one, and it's not doing anything for that person that's doing it to somebody. So I've been learning even more and more to just be like, man, I put up stuff with positive intentions, and it would just be a bummer to be you. So I just try to remind myself that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I hear you. Like, and that's one of the most challenging things. Like, have empathy for the haters and kind of see where they're coming from. They're probably getting some kind of dopamine rush from it for a brief second, but it's short lived. And I'm glad that you brought up Gary Vee. I enjoy a lot of his stuff too. And one of his posts was like, you have like kind of two choices. You can either try to bring everyone else's like tower down, or you can all try to like rise together. And so some other people, they feel better if they can tear other people's towers down.
That is well said. That is well said. So have you dealt with a lot of that? I mean, you put out a lot of content too, so I can only imagine.
Not as much. I've been very fortunate. Hopefully people don't listen to this and they say, oh, this is the prime opportunity to go after the Media Marketing Podcast. But I've been fortunate. I had one post where someone had like tweeted something out, and then I went to go look at the tweet and they had deleted it. So fortunate there. I get spammed with a little bit of stuff on my content now. You see people doing this copy and paste of like, go check out my website to get a 10% off or whatever. And but that's the internet, and we'll see, man. That's great that you're on all these other platforms as well. And I guess just to let the audience know, so you do a little bit of support for YouTubers out there.
One of my clients, her name is Claire P. Thomas. She's a pretty well-known like fitness influencer online, etc. And she puts out amazing content for people. She literally is like fitness, and she's she's an elite athlete with different companies, etc. And she's like one of the biggest people I work with right now. I'm very fortunate for that. And I did work for her in the past. And again, it comes back, like I said, full circle with everything. Putting my content online and on Instagram. She found me through Instagram through just hashtags. At that time, Portland videographer. She found my stuff, and when she hit me up and approached me to originally do work with her, it was just stuff for these like online, just content guides for like fitness, like at home workouts, etc. And she said, your work was it stood out. It was just the most different from everybody else in the area. I wanted to work with you because I didn't want my stuff to look like everybody else's. And it just goes to show, again, being original, trying those different things and putting yourself out there can literally change everything. And so like I work with her, and then other like just other people, especially in the hair industry. A lot of my background, like I got into video because of hair, and I used to work, and I still do work with a lot of pretty well-known people in the hair, like beauty world, etc. And I'll do work for them, etc. And then my own stuff and random offshoots, but a little bit of everything. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And there's a lot of overlap actually, like kind of in hair. And once you get in like kind of film and cinema, so you'll be able to kind of like you can talk the talk with those guys.
Trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess just to let people that are listening or tuning in, like please go and check out Ryan's work. You can go to his website, ryanchisesi.com. Like you mentioned, your Instagram is a great place to see your work. And I want to just really strongly emphasize for people, like Ryan has a very unique style, and it like you were saying, it's different than a lot of the other Portland work that I see. And I was just curious, like maybe we can dive into that. Like how did you find your style, and maybe you can unpack like how did you pick up your first camera, and what got you excited about videography in the first place?
Man, it's crazy. Thank you for asking that. It's funny. It might seem like it's easy for me, but I have a hard time talking about some of it because I'm like, why does anybody care? Like, I want to know what like got you started. Just know that when I talk, like talking about myself always feels weird.
The people want to know.
Yeah. A lot of my style, to really sum it up, honestly, I call it like learning, like operating out of terror. when I got into video, long story short, so I did hair for 10 years. I also used to tour and play music. And like when I wasn't touring and playing music, I was doing hair. I always did both. And if we go back a few years, I was doing hair at a barbershop, and I was also a men's physique, like bodybuilder person. So I was working out all the time, cutting hair, working out all the time, cutting hair, tore my arm, like my shoulder, I messed it up, and I had to have surgery. And I was already running social media for that barbershop at the time that I was at. Had to have the surgery, and I couldn't work for about 4 months. During that time, I just doubled down and went on YouTube, and I was like, I knew that I wanted to get more into photo and video, but it was out of terror because I thought I wasn't gonna be able to cut hair anymore, because I was like, I don't know how to use my arm. Like, what am I going to do if I literally physically can't cut hair? I was like, well, maybe I can edit videos. Maybe I can hold a camera. And then, you learn how heavy cameras are. And I'm just like, oh, that was a dumb move. But I just started learning through YouTube and literally just trying. So I got over my surgery. I get back to Portland. And I just knew, I can't explain it, but basically I made this decision. I was like, I'm just going to get in a video. Asked some friends who are good with tech, like especially computers, and I built a computer that would have like maxed out crazy specs, because I was like, if I'm going to get in this, because I have a background with music editing, I was like, I know I need a good computer. Got the computer set up, got the Sony a6000. That was my first camera. I had already had it. I've been using it, and just got a bunch of free jobs. Like I would just hit up people. I'm like, hey, can I film you? And I'd go to barbershops and salons and girls that I knew, and I'd be like, can I like film you walking around streets? Like, you're pretty, like, let me take your video. Like, and they were like, yeah, of course. I was like, sweet. So did a bunch of that, and literally just spent hours throwing it into like Premiere and After Effects and just going, all right, how do we do this? Music editing kind of helped with that. But where I'm going with all that is I didn't know what I was doing, and I threw myself into it. And I saw other people, especially on YouTube and other places, doing really cool things, right? Like you see all of them, like all the transitions or this and that, or the color grades, and how did they make it look like that? How'd they get that vibe? And I would try to copy it, and it always failed. Like I couldn't replicate what I was seeing. And because I'm kind of all over the place, I would just I would throw in a lot of effects, quick cuts, quick transitions here, doing this, different angles, thing. And then that at first got me a lot of pushback, because people were like, your stuff is too crazy. But then thankfully, my first like big person that I worked with, her name is Sophie Pock. She goes by on Instagram, StayGold31, very well known in the hair world. She's amazing. And she was looking for a video editor. Her stuff's always really cool. I reached out to her. We hit it off, and I started editing for her. And she wanted me to work with her because of how different my stuff was, because she's always stood out. And that's when it kind of clicked. I was like, just kind of go head first into that. And that's kind of what established it. But it literally was just not knowing what I'm doing and then trying to make up for it. And I'm still learning. It's funny, I'm still learning basics even to this day. But because of the situations I put myself in and just trying, that's what got me like more exposure and then more opportunities. And then working with her right off the bat then got me other jobs because of her. And then she had other connections. They had connections. Literally before I know it, I'm not even a year into my first year, I shot a commercial for Planet Fitness. I went and filmed in Russia with her, went to Canada, did a big product things there. New York, LA. I mean, I went Washington, like everywhere that quickly. So in under a year, I had done all of that stuff from the time I picked up the camera. And it was, I think like you said, just because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I think that's awesome. I mean, talk about operating by terror and it like working out really well for you in your first year. It's like, that's awesome. And I think the little thing for people to take away in other videographers is like, you created your own opportunities. Like you sought out those projects. Whereas I think a lot of times we're taught in like, if you get in school, you're waiting for the teacher to give you the next project or assignment, or you're waiting for your boss to give you the next assignment. And being proactive and creating those opportunities for yourself. I think that's pretty cool that it kind of worked out really well in your favor.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Well, you produce awesome stuff. So I'm super impressed, and being different is huge. Especially I think I guess it'll be my rant on hating on society, but society wants everyone to be the same. They want you to conform, and everyone just kind of is in their little box, and we all, are going in the same direction or whatever. But being different and standing out in business or as a videographer, as a creator, content creator, is the only way to stand out and to be recognized for something unique.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that too, because you think about like even in school, etc. They teach you about tons of people who they're like, this person did this and it changed everything. But then you do a deep dive and you're like, nobody listened to that guy. Everybody hated their ideas, and it's like across the board with everybody. And so again, like full circle with everything, like you're talking about getting over that fear, just trying different things, putting yourself out there to really make a difference. And I'm by no means am I the best at any of it. I'm not at all. It's like I said, again, it's terrifying. I meet people all the time and I'm like, how did you do that? And I'm in awe of people all the time. It's, to me, I guess this is part of what you asked. My naivety, or whatever you want to call it, of not knowing what I was doing, I think worked even more in my favor. Because I don't know if you know this, but the video and production world is very competitive, very tough. No, you know what I mean? Obviously, you know it is. And I did not know what I was getting myself into. It wasn't until that year had kind of ended and I kept having this like constant barrage of just more work, more opportunities, more travel. I mean, I went from flying never to flying 3 times a month. I mean, all over the place. And I couldn't even keep up with it. And I was still working at the barbershop this entire time. I was part-time. So I only worked 3 days a week, but on those days I went in at 11 to cut hair. I would get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, every morning that I possibly could, edit whatever I could, go to work, come back, finish editing, and just repeat it. But it's such a scary, to me, it's a very scary industry. It's terrifying. And if I had known maybe how daunting and everything was, I don't know if I would have jumped in as hard as I did, but I literally didn't think about it. And I don't know, man, it's just, I'm constantly just trying to get better. And the interesting thing now is, and I don't know, you could probably relate to this. I've been able to receive a lot of work and a lot of people's attention because it's the crazier stuff. But I started to try to veer away from it at the same time in finding different ways to not be as crazy with things and try and tell better stories. I always wanted to, basically people always tell me, they're like, you do the craziest stuff. It's so cool. But I never get, that was the best story, or that really hit me emotionally. So that's what I'm really working on now. So now I'm 3 years in and really working on just better shots, better story. And I always thought about that before, but I would just wing it half the time. And now, it is actually, it's so much harder to set up a couple basic shots, time it right, nail the lighting, catch the mood and get the vibe than it is to do something crazy and just throw things, because you can throw things over all day, but to get an emotion and a vibe and tell something, even if it's just filling in just this room, there's such an art to that, especially when it gets to lighting and sound and everything. And that's where you start to go, oh my God, this industry is just, everything is just so, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, you're rewarded a lot more for the pre-production, all the more forethought that you put into something. Yeah. As much as I'm in the same camp. I'm let's just produce, let's just get it out the door. Let's do it so that way, not to move on to the next project, but just to have something to show for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the more and I'm starting to do a little bit more of that too, more storyboarding and trying to actually visualize the space, or actually get photos of the space and map out how we're going to go from the entire shoot of the day. And that way you can just be more efficient on time and get that look and feel that you're going for. And storytelling,
it's everything.
It's everything. Yeah. And it's and I think people are kind of warming up to that a lot more, but it's challenging. I mean, that's why there's so many movies made every year that we never hear of, because they're not nailing the storytelling aspect. Yeah,
that is well said. I'm even while I'm out here in between all this, I'm working on my first Rode products, right? Rode microphone.
Yeah, RODE. Yeah.
Yes. Are you aware of the contest they put on every year?
No, I'm not.
It's called the My Road Reel, and no, I don't work for them. If anybody's listening, I would love to be sponsored though. Hey, the My Road Reel, and they do different prizes every year and different things. This year's really amazing, and there's different categories from documentary to comedy to animation, etc. And they have top 30 winners in all these different categories, and they're giving away $1 million in different prizes and whatnot. But it kind of inspired me to. I'm shooting. The limit is 3 minutes, which it makes it tough, but I'm going to do like my own like mini documentary, and submit that to their contest, to kind of continue to see, okay, how well can I tell a story? And just, I haven't even started shooting yet. And I've already put more mental work into it than I think most things I've ever done, because I know A, I have limited time, and B, if I want to get things put away or put out correctly, there's a whole nother level of pre-production and that thought that you have to dive into, because if I just go out there and try and wing it, I just know it's not gonna represent the feeling I'm trying to get. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely a big learning process.
Yeah, especially when you're competing against so many other contestants. And yeah, well, I've been pretty happy with my Rode equipment. I've been using the same Rode mic for the last 5 or 6 years. Yeah, sponsor us. Yeah. Oh man, no, I've been pretty happy with them. Well, best of luck on competing in that. And I think putting in that the time beforehand will be crucial. And yeah, where does the idea come from? Is it 3 a.m. or is it after a couple cups of coffee in the morning?
You never know. Yeah, and that's always fun too. I encourage people, essentially talking about social media, etc., with putting yourself out there. If there are competitions and other things like that, enter them. I've entered a ton of competitions and I've lost every single one of them, but I got different attention because of all of it and learned new things. And it's just finding those different things and putting yourself out there and accepting that failure, because every time I never placed, part of me was bummed. I was like, really? I thought this was dope. And then like there was even one thing I did where I was the top, like what do you call it? Like if you go through the rankings, the public judging of it, the public was like this guy. And I was like, I'm the guy. And then they were like, screw that guy, not him. And it's just interesting to feel all those things. And again, it's that whole range of emotions that goes into filmmaking and everything else and putting yourself out there. I think that makes people better. I don't know. It's that's
wild. So you won like the popular vote, and then the judges didn't give it to you. Wow.
Yeah, which is fine. I get it, and I look at it now and I go, oh yeah, it wasn't very good. It was just flashy. You know what I mean? So I think I messed up the story. So
yeah, that could be part of it.
Yeah,
I know. We're kind of and flashy does well and gets pretty far. I don't know. It's a whole nother thing. And then all the tools are changing all the time. Who knows where video production is going to be in 5 years? I know people are going to be doing more of it. That's one of the big trends. So this is like, I think even, when we got into this, like maybe half a decade or a decade ago, like it's become even more of a norm and a more of a way that people go to get their information. Like, I think if you have a question about your car, like your car breaks down, you're more likely to watch a YouTube video on how to fix your car than you are to read or go pull out their I don't even think they make manuals anymore because they're trying to, save paper.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. No, that's huge, man. I don't know. I just, again, it just comes back to everything you're talking about or that you asked me. Sorry, the light keeps changing. They keep blocking the light out.
To let people know. So they're doing like a little bit of work on the place that you're at.
Yeah. So I'm staying at my friend's house. They're redoing the front yard and getting their house stuccoed. And there's like 10 people outside covering the house in stucco. And I'm in the basement and the windows are tarped over, but the more stucco that falls down as they do it, the darker it gets in here. So don't know if I have to find another light, but I will.
See, that's all. No, I think that's great. And that's video production in a nutshell, is like making the best with what you have.
Yeah.
And then problem solving and troubleshooting. I think before this, you're like, this is the only room that I can film this in because of audio and everything else. So like, I think a lot of people, they watch, you go and watch like a really good YouTube video, or you watch your favorite movie and you don't learn about all the things that happen on the back end where like the light bulb went out or the batteries weren't working. So it's just part of it.
It's crazy. Well, yeah, even in the thing I'm doing now, for the contract I'm on here, a lot of it, the way it was filmed, I mean, I'm going to be out here, like I said, for 3 months, and I'm probably a month and a half of that is going to be me literally just going into scenes and fixing reflections and masking out things, and the like unfun side of everything, like from lights dying to people in the background. And you know, the certain projects were filmed like kind of during the times we're in now, and you don't want to see people with like masks on and stuff like that in the background. It'd kill the vibe, you know. So it's it's a constant battle to put out a good product. Like people, I always wonder if people, especially if they're not in film, do really understand what goes into even a simple production. Like even, like I said, when we first started this, your setup, immediately I just noticed how clean it was. The light looks good, skin tone's good. Like I was like, this dude nailed it. But then you get me throwing open the laptop and I'm like, I hope this works. Like it's amazing the difference, little preparation and what you know can do. So
well, this didn't happen overnight. It took I worked my way up to it, and now I just have I make it easier on myself as a content creator. Just have the tripod there, and I can like swap out the camera. I'm actually using an old tripod from like the 70s. My dad
love it.
So
really
still gets the job done.
Cool,
as long as you just like kind of you don't break the knobs on your tripod, you can get a good use out of it.
Love it. Making anything work. That's literally what I do. My monitor is being held up by sticky pads right now. So,
and those are kind of like I don't know. I think those will be the fun things we look back on as like, oh, like you're still able to make it work in spite of, the things that went wrong. I forget equipment often, knock on wood, but, and then you just make it work. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about what is your favorite part about the video editing process?
Not
to change gears on you, like
I love the gear change. So editing itself, my favorite part probably comes once after everything's logged and put in and everything's set up and ready to go. I love putting together that story. One of the biggest things for me though is probably it's my love-hate relationship. For me, it's sound design. You've probably seen me talk about it a lot. And a lot of people ignore sound so much in video, and sound is everything for the vibe and the emotion. And I know based off some other work and opportunities I've had, I literally got positions based off of, we loved the emotion in this. And then I talked about the music and they're like, yeah, the music grabbed me with the images. But their legit sentence was, the music grabbed me with the sentences. And so for me, once I have everything categories ready and I have the ability to start, it's finding the music and like the undertones and like that vibe that's going to set the tone for everything. Because when I think whatever the emotion is of the video, I can't lay down any clips unless it's just a basic talking head that needs something light underneath it. I can't lay down clips unless I know the feeling I want to put out. And so I start with the music. So my favorite part after finding the music, because finding music is awful. And depending on the projects that I do, I charge people a pre-production day if they want me to find their music. And then I explain to them all the differences with licensing, etc. I know you work with SongTub, right? Mm-hmm. Is that what it is? Like to use different things, people have to realize different limitations and what they can be licensed for, etc. And for broadcast, and there's so many differences. You got to get through that hurdle. And then there's finding the music that actually fits the quality. That is a nightmare and I hate it. So I will charge for that. Unless it's a music video, then everything's solved. But getting that in there and then telling the story based off the mood. So that's probably for me is the most fun part. And then the sweetening at the end. Once you finally get the color done and you've kind of get that first view of the thing you've had in your head for so long, that's amazing.
A big thank you to our sponsors over at songtub.com. That's right, song or music and a tub, like a bath, but more fun to say. Tub. Anyway, you can check out SongTub's website for any of your music needs. In fact, the song playing in the background right now is from SongTub. So why pick them over anyone else? Well, they curate the music. And I know the guys, so that means I know that they're selecting great music for your project. A lot of other companies will brag about how many songs they have, maybe 100,000, 200,000, maybe even 1 million. But honestly, I don't have time for that. I don't have the time to just sit down and go next, a song not so great, trying to figure out where the best music is. Songtub.com, great place to get your music, and now I'm excited to offer you the first month for free if you go to songtub.com/pro, P-R-O, and we have a promo code for you. Yes, that's right, my name, your host, Brian, B-R-Y-A-N, and that will give you your first month free to have access to a huge music library that you can use towards your next video project, podcast, or any of your general audio needs. Anyway, back to the show. I'm with you too, and I'm glad that you brought attention to audio, especially, you can get a nice camera and you can make things look really nice, but like you mentioned, audio is what grips people and has that emotional element. And I've seen some of your timelines, and they are just mind-blowing how much detail you put into everything above the line and everything below the line, because
Yes.
often you see people stacking it all the way up on the top, but those transition sound effects are even becoming huge for like moving from one scene to the next, and trying to just like dial in the music and the tone. And I'm with you. I've spent half a day just looking for the perfect song to get the mood right. And people will know. Your client will say, oh, I've had clients say like, oh, that music was like a little too eerie for this. We want it to be a little more uplifting, or I don't know. Sometimes they give you the most interesting phrases of words and you're like, okay, I guess I'll try to find that in a song.
And then you have to go through that nightmare of now you got to find something else when you thought you had the right thing. And now emotionally you're like connected to that track and you got to get out of it. That's a really good point. And the sound design is huge. Especially for, even if you're doing something that's flashy and fun with transitions. I see, I explained it to a couple people I get hit up a lot on Instagram and other things from people asking, how can I get better at editing? What should I do? Or would you look at my stuff? What do you think? And I'll watch the video and they'll just have like a cool flash transition. Somebody will be talking and then it'll transition and do that. And I'll ask them, why did you do this right here? They go, oh, I thought it looked cool. I was like, well, I was so disconnected when it happened because I couldn't feel it. And literally, if they were to go in and just put a sound underneath it and the right type of sound and the buildup, then it feels more organic, like it feels right. So sound design to me is huge. And I always try to point that out. And that's why a lot of reasons I show my timelines, which is another thing that I think is fun and has gotten me totally trolled all over, because people are like, your stuff is a mess. You don't know how to edit. Your timeline looks terrible. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm dealing with it, so I don't know why it concerns you. But it's interesting, to see the work that people put in both sides. And unless it's a music video and I have strict instruction that I can't add sound, which I will do to anybody's song if they let me, based off the video. I don't know, it can change the complete vibe. I also you might have saw a while back, I put out a free content creator pack. It's still on my website. So if you go to my website, there's a tab on there to download the free content pack. And it's got a bunch of sound samples. I did 100 sounds with a music producer friend of mine who runs Black Diamond Recording Studios in Portland, Oregon. We did 100 different sounds, from like whips and whooshes to like eerie music. Like we did a full like sound bed for like terror, like scary stuff, with that people could use for like a full movie almost. And I've been working on that with other things to eventually put out there as digital assets for like donation, because it's one of the biggest things I think people forget about. So I was like, this is the thing I should probably push more, because I feel like I could get away with a more terrible video if I could hook them with the soundtrack.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's a vibe.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so that's really generous and really nice of you guys to put that together. What did that process look like? Is some of it like you guys just grabbing random materials and recording it, or some of it by mouth?
It's so we are complete idiots, and we had the most fun making it. And this is where, if anybody checks out, especially when it comes out, the first place that we messed up on with the whole process, every time we did a sound, we think it's hilarious to name sounds really dumb things. But then when you go, if I were to send it to you, and I was like, hey, why don't you use these whips and whooshes or whatever in this scene? You would come to me and be like, what are you talking about? Because all these files say are drowning in turtle fluid, or this frog jumps up. Like literally we named each sound the dumbest thing ever because we thought it was funny. So I'm putting that out there first, because when I put it out, I'm not changing anything. And literally it's going to tell people, just click through it, find the vibes and have a good laugh. And that's part of the reason it's for donation. You don't have to pay for it because it's terrible. But the audio is all quality. We recorded at his home studio, which is a very legit studio. Everything is in stereo. Was it 4,800, whatever? I don't know. He knows the stats on it, or you could right click the properties on it and see the whole full breakdown. But we have full wave and MP3. We did everything from scratch. So we didn't want to go like, we found a lot of people will go into like Omnisphere and other things like that and create like tension builders or different sound effects. They'll use things like in Pro Tools and keyboard things that are already pre-programmed and layer them and tweak them, and now they're their sounds. Matt, who I work with, his tag online is make music or die. And he's like, I'm not going to be a part of putting something out that anybody, like, if they made it already, I don't feel right putting that out there as something that I created. So we set up different stereo mics, and we would take like strings and other things and like whip them around. We'd bang on bottles. And then we had like digital sound weird analyzer things. We plug them in, make weird static, and then change the frequencies and stuff like that. So that's how we created it. And then we put it together like idiots, and we're going to put it out like idiots. But I love that, because again, that's part of how I put things out, is trying it differently. And even in that creator pack I put out, I got so much love on it, which was amazing. And then, yeah, I got the people coming back to me. They were like, this is so stupid. I don't know what any of the sounds are. Do you even know what you're doing? I was just like, no, enjoy.
But like you said, it's free. And
Yes.
So, yeah, I think now free is like turned to this whole other like premium of what people are getting. But I think that's great. And you guys probably learned so much like through that process. And like, that's just like one more thing to add to like your repertoire of things that you can do.
Yes. And it's cool to be able to offer people stuff like that too. You know, I really do believe in helping people out and trying to put out good information, especially because, like I said, when I started, I didn't know what I was doing. And I went out and tried. That's the biggest thing though. I get a lot of people that are like, I don't know how to do this, and they don't do it because they don't have all the answers. And every time I ask them, well, what are you doing after work? I'm like, you're not shooting anything. You're not doing this or that. I was like, I worked every morning before that. Like I was up for hours editing by the time you woke up on stuff that was terrible because I filmed it, you know, not knowing what I was doing, but that's what got me better at it. But then I went on YouTube, et cetera, and I learned so much from other people just putting stuff out there. And I felt like I had to give that back. And it also just makes sense, because I also think if I put out enough stuff like that too, if someday I, you know, do to another sound thing and I actually label it correctly, I could be like, hey, $1. And people will be like, yeah, you can have $1. Or shirts, et cetera, you know what I mean? But I think it's just nice to give back. And especially, you know, with the year we've had and everything, you'll see on my stuff, even going back to even before COVID and everything, I just like trying to help out and trying to be somebody that's approachable. Again, because this industry is so hard, and there's lots of people I used to look up to that I reached out to, and honestly, we're very rude. And I just, it's very stunning to be in a position of, you know, to not know what you're doing and to need help, and you're looking for guidance. Of course, nobody owes you anything, but it's hard sometimes to put yourself out there and ask for help. And so when people in a way can kind of abuse that, it kind of just made me remember, like, I'll just never forget how that felt. I was like, I don't want to be that guy. So that's what kind of stirred that idea. You know what I mean? So, and it's fun. It forces you to create and learn differently. Like you said, how did we make it? And then I've used all those sounds in my videos, and I know that they work. So it's like, I can test it and use it. And now I have something, and I give it out to people all the time. So it's interesting to just, I guess the biggest thing is just giving back and being able to help, because I know somebody can benefit from it. And then I will end up benefiting from it in the long run, because hopefully they won't be like, that guy's a jerk. They'll be like, nah, he was cool. You should check out his stuff. Suddenly more people see your stuff because I wasn't rude to one person. So I don't know. It's all connected.
I think it plays out in the end. I think, yeah, always giving back and doing the right thing is always kind of the right thing, to steal some Gary V
It's true.
quotes there. And
I learned it from him, honestly. I didn't have a lot of people in my life saying those things. I always kind of felt it, but it took watching that dude yell at me through the screen to get over it and to put more stuff out there and to just, you know, now you don't have to work yourself to get to death, but it's like, you can try harder or try smarter, but it's like no more excuses, right? It's like, quit finding reasons not to do something and find reasons to do it and make peace with that.
Yeah. And we're living a fortunate time with the internet here. And yeah, I think I'm starting to see a lot of that too, giving stuff away, giving away knowledge and not holding the keys to how do you do some of this stuff, and teaching other people how to create their own content is, I don't know, one, it feels good. And I think it plays out in the end that when people do need you, or when you do finally do that ask of, hey, are you willing to donate $1 for this? People are more likely to respond to that. And they're like, wow, you've helped me for the last, 5-10 years. Of course I'm willing to give this person, a little bit of compensation for all the good stuff they've done.
Right. And then you build up that community too. That's always been the coolest part. Having people reach out and be like, your stuff is awesome. And like, that's it. I'm like, oh, that's all you wanted to say? That's amazing. Like, what is that feeling? Right. Like,
yeah,
we
need more of that. I think, go on. Everyone out there, the PSA, social media, go on and tell people that they're doing awesome work. I think that's fuel, and it keeps people going. And there's enough like haters out there in the world. Like at a time like this, we kind of need like unity. And if you can say a compliment to somebody and whatnot, like it goes a long way. And and it's fuel, and it motivates creators. And yeah, we have it. I think it's really challenging because in the creative industry, it's not, ones and zeros where it's just we're going for this binary result. It's like kind of, and it's an expression of yourself as well as like trying to, I don't know, accomplish something, like trying to take, especially with video, sometimes we're having to do something that's like in the abstract. You're trying to explain something that isn't visual, but like through music, through different sound bites, you can still get that information or convey that feeling.
Yes.
Whatever that might be.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. So what's next for you in this time frame of just everything that's going on? What's like in the media you're putting out? Like, do you have certain goals for the next year, or what's going on?
Yeah, this has been a very, very odd year, and I'm taking it kind of not as a normal year, but for me, my goals, I'm actually a little bit, full transparency for the audience. Like I'm a little bit in a slump here in August. This is like very vacation mode, trying to like kind of be more distant from technology and just enjoy nature and recharge. And then I'm ready to hit the fall really hard. But I think for me, the short-term goals, keep producing content, try to stay on that timeline with this podcast and get an episode out every Thursday. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, keep producing high quality work for clients. Keep figuring out what industry I really enjoy. Maybe I continue to just jump around industries the rest of my career, or maybe I find one industry that really calls to me. But I've always enjoyed meeting people and just hearing other people's stories and like learning from other people's experiences.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But what about you? Do you have any kind of short term, or like, what would success look like for 2020 in your eyes?
Well, 2020 going into 2021, I would like to do a lot more high level music videos, etc. I've done work with labels, etc. But I would like to do some like bigger, more creative work, especially in the short form, like for music videos, and then also like brand and advertising. I want to do a lot more of that because I feel like that's obviously where my brain is. And I've learned this, as you can probably tell from this up, I like seeing what makes people tick, etc., and seeing what works. And part of that is more of like a marketing thing that I'm realizing I have in my brain that I just am nurturing. So it's figuring out how to do that while also being creative with filming and editing. So music videos, brand content, and then I would like to like do what you're doing and be able to put out some constant work more for myself, like a YouTube channel, things like that. Because I work with people that do very well on YouTube, and you see the audience they can build there, and then you see the additional ways to make an income, etc. And it's just like mind blowing. All of that, I would like to do all of that. I want to do I have some really big goals. I want to, I want to double my salary. I want to buy my first home. I want to do certain things. And I know that I'm just going to have to step it up to do that. So it's accepting that challenge and following through on it, I think is my goal for this, all of this year,
No, I think those are all great goals. And I would tell anyone that's listening, if you need a music video or if you need any kind of video production assistance, like Ryan is your guy. And I think music videos are even more like, just unpacking that. I mean, you're often taking something very abstract, or they're going for a certain look or feel, and trying to really keep that authentic, like transitioning the sound to the visuals can be challenging. It's just, so you work pretty closely like with the artist throughout that process, or what does that look like?
I usually always do. I try to do more storyboarding if possible, and try to get together a full look, like a mood board, etc., and like kind of try and show the whole story of what are we going to try and do here. That's the biggest part of it, and then it's figuring out everything else, from where are we going to shoot, and if we're going to shoot out in public, etc. Do you need permits, etc.? Like, there's so many things that go into music videos that a lot of people don't understand, especially if you're like, again, if you're not in a studio, which a lot of times you're not, especially with the artists I work with. I work with a lot of smaller artists, and we just make things happen. You just go out on the street, and I literally would carry the boombox like in my hoodie, right, and be filming, have the thing playing, have them lip syncing, especially with like hip hop and stuff. And I just tell them, if the cops or somebody else shows up, we got to leave. So it's literally that in depth for me, from everything up in that. And then when I go to studios, etc., those are definitely longer days, more setup, more takes for the most part, but mainly setup. Music videos are a lot. There's a lot that goes into them, and it is a tough market, especially because labels don't have the same budget that they used to. Even the guys I know that are getting like anywhere between like 10 to like 25 grand a video to make music videos, it was like double that, triple that a couple of years ago, and it's like they'll get 20 grand to make a video, but they have to hire their own crew and get all the stuff, and then whatever's left is what they pay themselves with. And so it's a very interesting process, from that. So again, I would like to get more in that bigger range, because I've done a lot more of the smaller stuff. It's crazy involved. I mean, you gotta be in it.
I know. I've only made a handful of music. But you bring back, fond memories of having the little boombox, holding it. Sometimes it's like the little earbud, but you're filming at an angle, so you can't actually see the earbuds. So that way they're playing along with it or whatnot.
Yep.
But it's, but yeah, as those things keep growing, and how do they disperse the funds across the entire crew? And sometimes people are working a little bit less because they enjoy the passion behind the project, and it's kind of just this creative endeavor. And I tip my hat off to you. Are you
Thanks,
I guess maybe switching gear, and then you also talked about kind of YouTube as a platform, and I'm in agreement with you there too. Like, it's a good community. I think it's actually a community that's a little bit more welcoming than some of these other ones. Like, I'd much rather put my content out on YouTube than like maybe even Instagram or LinkedIn, just because I know it's a little bit longer standing. Whereas those other platforms, you're going to get kind of lost in the fray, and then you kind of have to like either repost it later or repurpose your content. Whereas that YouTube video will be there for a while. True.
That's totally true. I do that a lot, actually. And what's interesting, though, to hear you say that, I think I have more fear of putting my stuff on YouTube than I do on the other social media. And I guess I am on YouTube all the time. I watch stand-up comedy, from stand-up comedy tutorials to podcasts all day long. And then I read the comments. You should never read the comments, because you just see how people just get torn apart. And again, there comes that whole thing of like what I deal with, like mainly on TikTok, etc. It's like I guess I feel like, man, that's probably part of the reason I haven't done it. So my hat's off to you for having me.
Well, I think it takes even more work, or like it's because they haven't added the function, which I would love if they added this function to YouTube where you could replace the video without losing all of the stats. I know it's probably never going to happen, but Vimeo has that function. And that's why I was like really more keen on Vimeo for a while, is that like, because things change and maybe you want to make a little edit and you don't want to take an entire video down and put a whole new one up. But
yeah, Vimeo is amazing. That's where I see all the major professional stuff, by the way, to anybody out there who's listening. If you're building portfolio and all the other stuff, your links usually should go to Vimeo if you want to be taken more seriously. I don't know why, but I believe it's because I think you can retain better quality, etc. Vimeo is the place to be.
Yeah.
for posting content for work anyways. You know,
exactly, for those like kind of the indie creators, but it kind of, it has this I don't know, I would say higher quality feel to it.
It does, absolutely.
So we've talked a lot about like the editing process, but you do a little bit of shooting too. I guess just to put that out there for people too, you can help guide people along the entire process and do a lot of the planning. And you've already mentioned, licensing and getting permits to be on site. All that stuff is a headache, and it's nice to have a videographer that's well-versed and knowledgeable about those things. So that way they can just, look to you as the expert. Yeah,
it makes a huge difference. Yeah, I film all the time. I've been debating, if I want to upgrade my gear. It's very interesting because, as most people know, the gear changes so much right now, and everything keeps evolving. And I, for a moment, fell into that. I got to get the new camera, but then you realize it's really mainly about better lenses, and again, telling a good story. So it's like if you have good lighting and good lenses, you don't have to worry about the camera as much, hopefully, But yeah, I film all the time. I mean, my bag is right behind me. I don't go anywhere without, so I have my A7 III. I carry that with me everywhere I go, almost to a fault, to where it's a problem where sometimes I won't go in or run certain errands because I don't want to wear my bag in stores, etc. And I always have a camera on me. And then I have my Blackmagic rig. It's up on that thing right there. You can see it right there.
Yeah.
I film with that mostly for stuff that I'm trying to like give a I don't know, more of that filmic look to, etc.
You have a sweet rig. I remember seeing some of your behind the scenes of how you set it up, and that goes hand in hand. And I think that was some of the best advice I've heard from other photographers, videographers. Always have your camera on you, because if you don't have it on you, then you can't, go get that shot. Yeah, it's true. I even if I have to, I'll film stuff on my phone, and then I just try to convert it as best I can in edit. You know what I mean? Just because iPhone does weird like you'll look at, have you ever looked at the frame rate breakdown? Sometimes it's like 31 frames per second or 27.9, and you're like, what? Like they change things. Wow. It's so weird in the camera. So, but anything I can do to capture the moment, and I'll find a way to put it in a video. I always do. It's like a problem. So it's weird for me not to go places with, if I go somewhere without my camera on me, I always feel weird, and I always feel like I left something. So that's how much it's become a part of my life. Wow. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. And then, bringing it full circle, like this all came out of like an injury that you had weightlifting, and then like a fear of not being able to work. And so you picked up a camera as the way to make that happen. And so it seems to have worked out pretty well so far. Yeah. I think the big way to kind of loop it all to for you there, again, like we were talking about, is just to tell people to just go for it, whatever it is. And I've talked, you've probably seen, I talk about that. I'm not as serious on social as I used to be. I used to put out the big, like, you can do it, rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, nobody needs to hear that from me, maybe necessarily, but it's like, I got hurt. I was scared. I won't go into the background of it, but I grew up in very interesting adversity, had a lot of challenges growing up, etc. And I think a lot of people can get stuck thinking, they can't make things happen. And I think the biggest thing to take away from even my little story is that if you just put your head down and just go tunnel vision, at least just for a little bit, and just believe in yourself, you really can change things. And it doesn't matter if you don't find the right thing right away. I think a lot of people get so stuck on, like, I used to hear it from my family all the time.
especially like after college and before that. They're like, you've had so many jobs. When are you going to just stay with one place? Your resume looks terrible. You're a job hopper and all this stuff. And I'm like, good, because I'd rather know that those things weren't meant for me and it didn't feel right. And yes, there's something to be said about staying in something, but it's also good to like listen to your heart and to know what you feel inside and pay attention to that, because hopefully life is fairly long and you get the opportunity to live it doing things that bring some actual fulfillment. And even if curveballs get thrown at you, like when my arm got torn and all that, I mean, it messed everything up for me. I mean, my physical health went just down the gutter, because I mean, it was terrible. I was in so much pain and I couldn't work out the same. And then I hurt my leg and it was just this, I was like, well, what am I going to do? And then getting into that and seeing that I could still do something and then be good at it just because I tried, that was probably the biggest motivator I've ever had in my life. And people that I know told me they saw a change in me because of that. And I'm like, if I could do that, I think anybody can. So it's like, just go for it. And if you want to do media, dope. Hit me up.
Yeah, go. Exactly. No, that was well put, well said.
Thanks.
A cactus knows how to survive. It can endure scorching heat, limited rainfall, and defends itself against critters daily. Your business is no different. To survive harsh conditions, it's important to develop deep roots using media content that'll continuously nourish and support your marketing efforts day after day. Tactus Media is here to help you determine a strategy and create media content. Together, let's map out the next sequence of videos, podcasts, and social media to help your business thrive. Work with Tactus Media, media tactics that stick. Ouch! Visit tactusmedia.com to learn more.
Yeah, I think that a different generation came from where it's like, if you get one job, if you're miserable, that sucks. You're now doing that for the next 40 years until you retire, and you just, that's it. Whereas, you don't. Yeah, I would say like to the younger group coming out of school, whatnot, like you can only figure out what you like to do by doing things that you don't like to do. So you have to like just. I think all of those experiences make someone a little bit more well-rounded, and I think it makes someone a lot more interesting. All the different experiences rather than just one thing that you show up to every single day. And
exactly. I think connections, right? Connections are a game changer. You could be the most talented person in the room, but if nobody knows who you are, you're not going to get the opportunity. So you've got to put yourself out there. And I mean, I literally, like I said, I got to do things so quickly because I put myself out there, and I probably didn't even deserve it, but I just kept showing up.
Yeah. Putting yourself out there, like you said, connections, talking with people, being friendly, being approachable. I think there's some really good producers out there or people that create content that aren't approachable. And I don't think it plays out very well. Be nice to people when you can, and good things will happen. Yeah.
My friend, Claire, like who we were talking about, who do her YouTube stuff, her big saying is, be nice and work hard. And I'm like, all right, I'll try that.
I like it. Yeah. Well, I think that hard work that shows up at 4:30, 5 a.m. when other people are still hitting the snooze button.
Yeah, it does.
Do you have any, question, like a cool story or a questionable moment that happened in the filming or editing process? Like anything that first comes to mind where you had to troubleshoot on the fly to make it work?
Oh yeah, I've had quite a few. I think one of the bigger ones for this is the knowing all aspects of your job. If you are getting in video, especially if you're just starting out, to me is one of the biggest takeaways I could give to anybody, especially if they're starting out, or if they're just filming. Because I still know a lot of people that go out and they film all these things all day, and they're good and they think they're good, etc. And they have all this experience. But if I were to tell them you're going to travel, first of all, you're going to travel. And then when you get there, you're going to have all the gear delivered. Oh, by the way, where'd you get the gear? Who ordered it? Well, you probably ordered it, especially if you're working by yourself. Okay. And then how'd you get that gear? Well, you had to front the money for it. Because on a lot of jobs, especially the ones I've done, even the bigger ones, and this is where I'm getting to. So like the job I did with Planet Fitness back in the day, when I did, that was my first commercial that I shot. I had to rent all the gear. Well, I was like, okay, I'll rent all the gear. Well, it was like $50,000 in lights. I didn't have the credit limit for that. So I had to apply for like different not credit limit. I have good credit. How dare you? No, but there's a bunch of stuff behind the scenes of that where you have to be insured a certain way, and you have to have certain production insurance, etc., for having people on set. So it's like, okay, you're going to travel somewhere and do this big job. All right, well, who's taking care of the equipment? Are you taking care of the equipment? Who's taking care of the licensing for it? Who's got the insurance for it? So when I shot that thing for Planet Fitness, just getting there was one of the biggest wake-up calls for me, because before I could even set everything up, I thought they were going to take care of the fronting the money and all the other things. So I had to learn how to front the money. I mean, I had to pay $900 out of pocket for a 1-month insurance thing in LA to cover myself for all the equipment I had and the people that were going to be on set. And I hadn't budgeted for that, but I had to find the $900, put that into it. Then I get there, and then, they deliver all the stuff. And then some of the lights and the gear I ordered, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I've never set this up before. So here I am setting up like big, like REs, like sky panels, like all these things. I'm putting them up in this huge room. Okay, now I did that. Go get the cameras ready, do everything else. So for me, that was one of the biggest wake-up calls was, wow, it's so amazing to have this opportunity. Oh my God, this is a terrifying opportunity. So that was huge for me. And I learned a lot from that, because that was like a 16-hour day before even like shooting at that point, because I couldn't even set anything up until after they were done rehearsing and doing all these other things in this room. And I got to get all these big lights. This is after getting off the plane and everything else. That's kind of like, it's a bad story, but it's a better warning in regards to, I just know so many people who are crushing it, but it's a lot easier to crush it and show up with a camera on hand and just shoot, run and gun. But the moment things start to change and you get those opportunities, I would say if you can, try and stay a step ahead and learn everything that goes into it, from what is going to be entailed in the editing to what legally you have to be prepared for. Because especially the moment you start shooting yourself, you need to be insured, and you need to have contracts, and you need to know that other things that you would think would never be a problem don't become something that ruin a great opportunity. So for me, and again, that was my first year in, and I mean, every single turn I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know what I'm doing here. So that was pretty cool.
But it worked out, just to let people listening know, like everything came together nicely.
Yeah, ended up getting it done. The edit it was a 30-second spot. And I mean, the edit process ended up taking like a month and a half because of revisions and then the corporate ladder and the way things go. And I mean, it is a world, as you know. I mean, so it went good. Big learning opportunity. So terrible story, better warning.
Dude, that's just wild. Yeah, trial by fire. And then it sounded like you didn't have any like kind of mentor or someone to be able to guide you along. So you're just learning this all from the ground up. And
not for that part.
Yeah.
So yeah, nobody told me that. I'm sure the information was out there, but I didn't have it.
Yeah, well, good on you for kind of figuring it all out and having it come together. Especially, such a big client where the stakes are higher. And I've been in situations like that, and you just make it work, and you hope for the best. And yeah, as a videographer or a content creator, all the people that want to see it, and then you get in the kind of the politics of people wanting to give, on their end, putting in feedback because they feel the need to. Because if they don't give any feedback, then are they contributing to the project? And then you're like, okay, I'm making this little edit because it needs to be, I guess, done because I said to. But
a lot of cooks, little kitchen,
all that fun stuff. I know.
Yeah. And the I think the other thing to tell everybody is always bring granola bars, because you never know.
Oh yeah. On site, bring snacks, bring water, bring snacks. That's a great tip. Granola bars, because I would have saved me a couple times when working with talent, especially if you have a shoot that's at 1 or 2 p.m. Sometimes people have so much stuff going on that they're trying to cram in that they'll skip lunch then come to your shoot. And then now you're dealing with the talent that can't remember their lines or just isn't even fully there because they're thinking about food. They're thinking about lunch.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And then for yourself too, because if you're out there shooting and it's a long day, you've probably seen that I did behind the scenes for a couple music videos for Ciara a couple years ago, and the call time was 6:30 or 7, I can't remember, but like we didn't wrap till like 14 hours later, and they did have like a crew like break in that point, like in the middle of the day for like meals. but my job was to follow her and everywhere she went. So I didn't really get the luxury to stop. So it's like, bring granola bars. That's what you can title this podcast. Bring granola bars.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's me.
Dude, Ryan, this has been really awesome having you on the show. Just one last question for, I know we've talked about just like jumping in and doing it, but for a small business owner looking to incorporate more video into their marketing strategy, do you have any kind of advice there?
I think the biggest thing is to just put stuff out. We do want to put out quality, but at the same time, even if you're a small business owner, you can get a couple accessories for your phone and a couple different apps and try and create something. And I think my message with that is to all business, like smaller business owners. Are we talking video or just anything?
How about, anything.
Okay. Well, if we're talking about, say, not in video, if we're talking about somebody that, say, owns a small donut shop, I say, try and film something yourself, see what you can do with it. And then don't be afraid to reach out to people like yourself or me, because once you see everything that goes into it, you start to understand and have more respect for the process. And I think a lot of people can almost take for granted a good, simple video, right? But I think for like advertising and like putting stuff out there, find a way to stand out is the biggest thing. And whether you are filming it on a cell phone or something like that, like we talked about before, find a way to stand out, to break the energy of the feed or what people are seeing. And that's probably my best advice. Find a way to stand out and try to just operate from the best standpoint, like professionally and personally. Try to stand out and don't take advantage of people.
Yeah. I like that. I like that.
Something like that.
It's okay to be different. It's actually probably a big necessity. If you are that donut shop, like, what makes your donuts different than anyone else's out there? And then can you convey that through your content? And I'm with you. Like, I want people to try to do video on their own, film it on your phone. And you can actually buy lenses for your phone now, which is crazy. Like, you can buy a telephoto lens and slap it onto your phone. And I want people to try it because it's not easy. And when it does get challenging, or if you have questions, like you said, please reach out to both of us for help. And I'm always...
It's interesting too, right? Like, if I've just found it to be true. When you show somebody that you're operating out of the best intention, and that's why I say, no, go for it. You don't need me. You let somebody go through that process, and then they just kind of just see it in a different light. Because then they're like, why doesn't this look the same? It's like, well, because I've gone through the terror of figuring out how to make it look a little better. So I don't mean it in like a weird manipulative way, but it's like, I encourage everybody to do what I did to get better. And then if you can't, find a mentor or find somebody else that's better and use their services or learn from them or do what you can to continue to level up. And I think that's the biggest thing I think I should have said with that, to take away from that, is no matter who you are, try it and level up and do what you can to then spread the wealth of the goodness of all of it from yourself to other people in different industries, etc. So
totally. Yeah. And I think there's something you said, it's really hard for someone to get those many hours of you waking up 4:35 a.m. working on stuff. And it's part of the trial, part of the process. And it it can be challenging, it can be scary, and it can be fun. And Ryan, this has been an awesome episode.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I recommend for people, go visit Ryan's website, ryanchisesi.com. I'll have in the show notes.
Nice.
I also have a link to your reel, to your Instagram, and you can connect with you on LinkedIn. So
cool, my man.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you too. Thank you, Ryan. And we made it happen. This has been an awesome episode. I think people are going to really enjoy it.
Definitely the best one I've done. So thank you for letting me ramble. I appreciate you.
Definitely.
Yeah, man.
All right, Ryan. Well, best of luck.
Cool, man. Take care of yourself.
I want to say a big thanks for tuning into the Media Marketing Podcast. Please subscribe to get notifications for new episodes, which are coming out every Thursday morning, or at least we're striving for that. Feel free to visit our Facebook page where you can like and join the media marketing community. This is a good resource for collaborating, sharing ideas with other media creators, marketers, and those just looking to build their network. So until next time.